Hello, everyone. So happy to be here with you today on Disruptive Conversations. We have 2025 really coming right down our path, and during this time, it's usually a time of reflection. And as we talk about reflection, reflecting on 2024, we know that reflection is about memories and thinking back to what happened, how we felt during those times, what they mean to us, the meaning that memories has for us. And with us today is a memory expert from the vantage point of being an artist and a filmmaker. I know that sounds like a very interesting combination, but our guest today is Viviane Silvera, who is exactly that, and she's going to share some of her journey and the interest that we have here. She is Viviane has joined, and and she's sent a request, so we're going to be going. Instagram is always live is live, and sometimes we just don't know how live is going to go. And so I see her. I don't see her buffering yet, but this is having a point of reflection is really important for us. Maybe Viviane, maybe you want to ask again and I can see you come on. And I'm just going to do a little shout out to Carly that I'm not seeing her come on yet. So in any case, 2024, I don't know what kind of year it's been for you. Years are usually, all sorts of mashup of things that we'd like to remember, things that we might like to forget, but forgetting has its own, all right, all right, I have to, that is for Viviane to exit the live and resend the request. So we're giving this another try. She couldn't get on. But in the interim, this leaves us with the opportunity to know that positive change and what I call disruptive change can happen at any point in time. And as 2025 is looming and 2024 is a closing out in some regards, we have the opportunity to reflect on what the year has been for us, what we'd like to take with us, what we would like to learn from this time, which is so critically important. You may have this idea that, oh, I can leave 2024 behind, but that's not how it works. It's not that there's a little cannula that goes into your brain and sucks it out, sucks out that piece of information from our heads. It's really us who determines what happens, to some extent, what happens with that memory and what we want to do when we have that memory, what aspects of it we want to focus on, what we might want to do differently next time, what we might want to do exactly the same next time. But each time we think about a memory, we're actually changing that memory. It's not specific to that memory. And when we reflect on it again, when it pulls up for us again, we're in another space and time within ourselves. And because of that, when we remember, each time we actually remember a little bit differently, a little bit differently. And we are in the space of reflecting on and thinking about rather than being in it. And that's one of the important pieces between remembering and knowing that you're not there versus for many people having experienced trauma and experiencing symptoms of PTSD. is that when you think about it, you can picture yourself in it, but you're not in it. Okay. All right. And I'm going to accept that request. Here, we're giving this another try. I know I've done that. And here she is. And here she is, our intrepid, courageous Vivian. And so I'm going to be introducing the show, myself and you, and our little disclaimer for today, which is not a disclaimer, it's just a different kind of invitation. So welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, educators, influencers, artists, filmmakers, in which we deep dive into the experiences these women have and challenges that these women have navigated and conquered in order to have achieved their personal and professional success. And I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. And here's the good news, that positive change can happen at any point in time. You're not too late. But in order to create positive change, you need to disrupt. You need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a habit, a behavior in order to create your 10.0 life. And here to help us on that journey, she'll be back in a second. Here to help us on the journey is really an extraordinarily, we're all unique, and we have a person who is unique and someone who really embodies and has integrated different aspects of her work and herself in ways that may not be exactly what you might think. So there's a lot of surprise that goes here, and now I'm going to tell you why. So today I'm thrilled to have my guest, Viviane Silvera, who is an award-winning artist and filmmaker, and she's recognized for blending art and science to explore memory and trauma. You may need a minute to have that all vibe into your head. And she has put an massive amount of effort, energy, vision, heart, and absolute determination to create her film, See Memory. All right, I'm going to slow this down, which explores how memory and imagination shape our perceptions of the past. And that's going to be premiering on PBS in May 2025, which is wonderful. So Viviane has taken her talents, her abilities, and her many spaces of brilliance as an artist, as someone who experiences the world differently than those of us who are where art and drawing and painting and the visual may not be the primary way that we communicate. And we all go through the world differently. If you're an artist, you're going to see differently. If you're a musician, you're going to hear differently. You're going to hear sounds and music differently. And so Viviane is going to be sharing some of her experience today with us. We're going to be focusing on reflecting back on 2024 and the role of memory in doing that. Viviane is intrepid today. She is not in her best of voice, but we don't have to get to best. We're going to do the best we can and, sorted this out. So by all means, Viviane, I've been telling people about you and sharing this extraordinary uh, journey for you. And so if you would like to, with the voice that you have, tell us a little bit about yourself. And also let's focus on however you would like to begin, about what reflecting on 2024 means and what
Sure.
that memory.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, my voice is terrible. Um, so I did, in my work, I work with a lot of neuroscientists and psychologists to understand how memory works. And I think the way we can use what they have discovered about memory in a really constructive, creative way at the end of the year is that memory is not a recording of the past. Memory is constructed each time we recall something. So every time you recall something, it's an act of creation. The way it works in your brain is all these different fragments of an episode are pulled together so that you can tell a story about it. And every time you pull those fragments together, the story might be a little bit different. You can add to it, you can change it. So what that means is you don't change the facts of the experience, but you can highlight different aspects of it. So let's say there's a memory from this year that you're really struggling with. Um, you can be the storyteller of that memory, and you can rewrite the story and highlight different aspects of it so that you can be the hero or the heroine of the memory rather than being a victim to that memory. So that's what I would say is one of the most powerful takeaways I've had in working with scientists and in art, sort of putting their findings through the lens of art and realizing how much creativity we can bring to the act of remembering. I'm sorry, you asked me to tell a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Hong Kong and Brazil. And one of the reasons I'm so interested in memory is because of my own grappling with memory from the first 10 years of my life in Hong Kong, which I've never been back to. And those memories are very out of reach. They're very fleeting for me. So I became fascinated by how we remember, what we remember, and if memory is really the story of how we tell how we became who we are, what if you can't remember things? What does that mean? Do you have an incomplete picture of who you are? And working with neuroscientists, I've opened up my mind to understand that memory can be a lot of things. It's not only a story you can put into words. Maybe you don't have that memory, but maybe you have a smell that you can remember. Maybe there's a taste, or maybe it's just a feeling that you have from a certain time in your life. And that is just as valid a memory as a memory that you can put into words.
That's said so beautifully. And as we were just chatting before we got on, uh, that one of the things that I talk about, one of the things I write about, is that we're all bilingual. And what I mean about that is that our first language is the language of the body. And we all know this, whether with our own parents or someone that we're very familiar with, is when we feel things, and we have become, in many respects, incredible observers, particularly of whoever it is that's taking care of us early on, of the face. And we become extraordinarily tuned in to the smallest shifts of face. It's not the words, the tone of voice, the intonation, the precision, the rapidity, the the volume, all of those components. And language is what kicks in last. And what I love about what you're talking about in terms of art, that art is a language that transcends the verbal.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I called the film See Memory, because as a visual artist, I crave visual memories. And in fact, before going into this film, I had made a series of drawings called Borrowed Memory in an attempt to reclaim or even create a memory bank of images of my childhood in Hong Kong. So what I did was I borrowed other people's snapshots of their years in Hong Kong, of the same years I was there in the 70s and 80s. And I drew those memories, and I used white, the color white, to represent the color of memory. And it was an attempt for me to see if I could create a memory from someone else's childhood in Hong Kong that I could absorb as my own. And it was actually very effective. It worked very well for me because at the end of the project, I couldn't really remember which images were from my own family snapshots and which images were, just pictures of Hong Kong I had found somewhere else on the internet.
That's, I'm trying to picture this undertaking, and that memory is something that's so, in many respects, abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we have a snapshot, even if we have a video, that memory is very abstract and it's very specific to the moment. So that if you're in a different mood, if you're in a different mindset, let's say you were feeling sad or feeling angry, you can look back on a memory and have a different kind of emotional experience related to it, right? Then at another point in time when you can look, have that picture in your mind, pull that memory. Well, there are the memories that we pull up, and there are the memories that just
Right.
uh, come to us, that are evoked, that we can't conjure up, but all of a sudden they're there.
Yeah.
And that we have that, depending on what state we are in, we can remember, like, that the thing that went wrong, or another time when we think about that same memory, depending on where we are at the moment in ourselves, we can go, oh yeah, those flowers that were in the background, they were in bloom, it was really lovely. And so that not only can your memory shift, but the focus of your attention of that memory is also fluid.
Absolutely. And one of the so I interviewed 7 neuroscientists and psychiatrists for the film. And one of them, Dr. Silvana Riccio, she's a psychiatrist as well as a neurologist. And what she said was, before you can even form a memory, you need to have attention. So you only remember what you pay attention to, right? And it's sort of what you were saying earlier, when we're infants, we're hyper focused on the person who's taking care of us and their face and all the details and their expressions, because probably we're totally dependent on them. So we're monitoring their mood, and all of that is so important to us. Um, and one of the things, though, therapists have been able to do, I'm sure you do this in your work as well, is, let's say you're struggling with a very difficult memory, you can highlight things that were maybe in the background that were positive, that you may have overlooked. Like you said, like the flowers, and I know that, Dr. Daniela Schiller, a neuroscientist I interviewed as well, said when we are in a bad mood, we will remember negative memories. And when we're in a good mood, we'll remember positive memories. So it's sort of self-reinforcing. We get in these loops, right? This feedback cycle of just.
And what's great, that I'm going to add in, is that when we have awareness, like, this is our spot. When we have awareness and we know that and you can realize it. Let's say I'm really in a funky mood right now, and you realize that you're remembering everything funky that you could possibly imagine. It's like a cascade of that icky thing happened, and that thing made me mad, and there I was disappointed. It can just be like a waterfall of memories. And you could also have the possibility of saying to yourself, hey, wait a minute, 1 second. I'm in a difficult mood. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling just that I can't seem to take anything else in right now. Let me give myself a moment and see if I want to, what I call, change the channel on the kinds of memories that I'm pulling up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the thing that made me so hopeful when I made this film, in interviewing all these scientists and therapists, and exploring how you can change a memory just the way a painting might change. So, stroke by stroke, you're making the painting, and then bit by bit, that painting can change into a different scene gradually, right? And that's the way we can relate to our memories. So the memories aren't fixed. And the fact that memories are not fixed, we can actually use to have a better relationship with our own memories so that you're not a victim of your memory, but you are actively negotiating that relationship with your memory, right?
That's so fantastic. So I want to say that you have been extraordinary in bringing your best voice forward for us. And there's a lot more that we really want to go into. I want to let everyone know this is just a flavor of what I will say actually is a brief image a moment of what is going to happen when we reschedule, when Viviane is in full voice and her throat isn't scratchy, so we can delve more together and create and explore more images, more memories, more moments together. And thank you so very much for bringing what you was beyond what you really could bring today, and and so much appreciation for us from me. And just would you like to just close out with a one thought about reflecting on 2024 and going into 2025 from an artist, uh, videographer, filmmaker, human being perspective?
Absolutely. So, when you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was this thing that Dr. Epstein shared with me that I then made a painting for in the film, where he says, like an artist, with a canvas and it's empty, and you start, and something just starts to come, and you start to paint, and a picture starts to emerge. I think, you know, we can sort of paint the picture of this past year and then think about the new year as a new canvas and as new picture that we can start to paint. And you can keep the things that worked for you in the past year and incorporate that in your new picture. And the things that didn't work for you, you can paint something different in its place. So you have the creative power to do that, whether or not you're a painter.
I love that, and that we don't throw the canvas out.
That's true.
Even if we're throwing the canvas out, we're not throwing the canvas out. That canvas is still in us somewhere. And it really behooves us to do, as you were talking about, which is take active ownership of it in some way, shape, or form. And so when we continue this conversation, this disruptive conversation in 2025, we're going to have an amazing start point, Viviane.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry I'm not at my best, but I'm super excited to keep going and talking and exploring all of these exciting things that I learned.
It's just, and thank you for sharing it with us. So everyone who's listening today, remember that as we're talking about memory, remember that as you're remembering that you have control over what you're painting, how you're painting it, the colors that you're using for it. What has happened. How you live with it, the narrative you take with yourself, and the colors you use to paint it. That's in your head and within the extraordinary confines, not confines, of your own memory and ability to have vista within yourself. So thank you so much for coming on. And let's just take a moment to take a shot for our cover shot for today. So go. And one more. Thank you, everyone who's joined me in 2024. I can't wait to see you in 2025. Remember, positive change can happen at any point in time. You're never too late. And when I see you next time, know that I've saved a seat for you.
Teresa.